Well, yo ho ho, ye landlubbers, and welcome to another edition of Rulebook RX. I'm Dee, and today we're going to be taking a look at Libertalia, Winds of Galecrest by Stonemaier Games, designed by Paolo Mori. I hope I'm saying that name right. I don't know if I am. I'm going to be taking a look at the rulebook and going over the design, looking at the layout. How easy was this game to teach? Did I have any struggles with the rulebook? I'll also be taking a look at the solo Automa version. How easy was that for me to teach myself? And yeah, I'll give you my thoughts right after this. All right, here we are looking at the Libertalia Winds of Galecrest. We got the regular rulebook right here and the Automa solo rulebook right here. First, we're going to start with looking at the regular rulebook right here. So we kind of start with a little bit of an overview, kind of explaining how this was based on another game, yada yada yada. Overview, and then a very small area for components. Taking a look right here, we do have a really big kind of splash picture of how it should look as a setup in the Calm. I'm going to come back to this because there's something that I want to draw your attention to in just a sec. So we're going to kind of keep going here. A little bit of like how the gameplay goes, two-player mode, and the end of the voyage. And then, a little bit on the reputation track, end of game. And then, a bit more about the publisher's notes. And then on the back, just kind of showing how these all go. And then this part is actually on the board itself, but it goes into, how to do each voyage and everything like that. One thing that I really struggled with was knowing what is the deck and what is the ship. So for those of you that are looking for things, this is it right here, where it says if your character is still on an island, place it face up on the ship, on the table in front of you. That's the only time the ship is mentioned where it is in the rulebook. So I really think this should have been bolded or anything, if they would have showed this three-player setup, maybe more of a diagram, since there's all this kind of wasted space over here. Just show that, here's your ship, here's your hand, and this is the graveyard. When I did set this up with my family and we were playing a three-player game of it, I started getting the anxiety sweats of like when they're like, well, what's the ship and what's your deck, and just flipping to the rule book really quickly again after looking at it, I couldn't figure it out until almost halfway through the game. So we took a long time. We kind of even took a pause, and I had to look for some more stuff online, but that's not great. If a lot of the cards reference, your ship and your hand, that should be way more apparent. So that's kind of that. I'm going to quick switch over here to the Automa. Once again, a little bit of white space here, components, and it does do a nice job of explaining the general rules of how this works, and kind of going into what things you're going to be leaving out and all that jazz. Whoops, sorry about that. And then finally, we've got just kind of how the Automa is going to value the different types of things and what's it going to look like on these Automa cards. I was kind of able to learn the game in the Automa version, but it wasn't easy, especially once again maybe missing that the phrasing ship and where that meant on the board versus your hand, your graveyard, and the island. I think some of that could have been a little more a little more apparent, I guess. And then on the back, just nothing. So I will say the feeling on both of these has a nice velvety feel. It feels pretty nice. And the size is good for being able to kind of reference things, with one hand, and it doesn't take up a whole lot of table space if you're just using one. I mean, if you're just using two, then that's almost the size of a regular rule book. But I will say that I do like having it, as almost like a one-handed, being able to just kind of hoist it around and look at it. That was really nice, but yeah, that's about it for the rulebook. Let's go back, and I'm going to tell you what I think. Well, we are back. So, full disclosure, I've never played the original Libertalia game. I am a huge Stonemaier Games fan, so I bought this version with my championship membership, just because, like I said, I'm a huge fan of Stonemaier. So usually I have no problems with their rule books, learning their games, teaching their games, all of that. But I got to tell you, I really struggled with this one. Brought it out a little bit ago to teach my mother-in-law and my wife. I taught myself the solo one a little bit. It was a struggle both of those times. I'm not gonna lie. That little bit of not really highlighting what is the deck. If you get it set up on the table, and you're kind of like, when a lot of these cards reference the ship, the deck, all of that different things. I really think this needed a bit more of that diagram showing this is what your hand is, this is what the graveyard is, this is what your ship is, and this is what your deck of cards are. So I really think that a nice diagram would have helped for that. It kills me to say that. I really struggle with it because, like I said, I'm such a huge fan of Stonemaier. But yeah, I if I were to give this and the solo Automa rulebook any kind of diagnosis, it would need some heavy medication to fix this, maybe even some physical rehab. The physicalness of the rulebook was nice. Like I said, it's got a nice size, a pretty decent feel. Not as good as like Wingspan or even Imperial Settlers, Empires of the North. Those ones just had such a velvety feel. This one was fine. It felt good in your hands, which is good. But just as a rulebook, it definitely needs a bit of attention, I think, for people that are just kind of coming to the game without knowing much of the other game, the first edition of Libertalia. So that's all I got to say on that. Once again, thank you for stopping by Rulebook RX. I'm Didi. Go ahead and like and subscribe if you like this kind of thing. Throw a like on there if you really liked what I did, and I'd really appreciate that. So for now, we're signing off. Have a great rest of your day.